Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And shalom, peace be upon especially all my brothers and sisters of the book. Uh, I don't want to exclude any other religious movements or things like that, spiritual movements as well. But, this is on the main majority of our audience. So, of course, I'm going to show support for people that show support for me, first and foremost, right? I like to be as quote unquote inclusive because everything these days about inclusivity. But there's gonna be some people. Just heads up, if you are, I'm just gonna be honest. If you are a so-called super left-leaning SJW person, I'm just gonna say don't follow my channel at all because I'm gonna be having conversations that are probably gonna trigger you, and I'm not ashamed to do that. This is not a space where I want to bash anyone, but inshallah, my duty in this life is to serve my creator, and I don't care about rubbing people off wrong. This is going to actually go straight into the heart, a stake in the heart of a lot of what you believe, and I'm not going to be ashamed and not going to be scared to express myself. And I'm tired of feeling like I have to repress my inner feelings while other people don't repress their inner feelings for whatever kind of reason. You're actually encouraged to dismantle everything that I believe in, right? And I have to sit there and listen to it and take it, And I'm really patient, I'm really not a guy that tries to resort to anger. As I got older, I kind of just let stuff slide. I dealt in a household with people that were really emotional and that really didn't have a lot of patience, that really lashed out on me, this, that, and the third for the mistakes that I made. So I know what it's like to deal with people that are like that. But first and foremost, I don't want to seem like I'm shutting people's down to their opinions. Inshallah, actually one of these days, I'm actually going to try to go out of my way when this platform gets established to kind of have connections and conversation with people from the other side. But I can't really do that right now. I'm just in the beginning stages. So bear with me. But I hope all y'all had a good day. Today is the night that officially starts the month of Ramadan. Ramadan officially starts the tomorrow morning. The fast starts tomorrow morning. Alhamdulillah. And so I'm going to be really emotional on this one. I am so blessed to be in the position I am right now. Every Ramadan, I notice that there's different progressions that I've made in my life. And sorry, I'm really nasally too. I'm into my surgery. So, and I literally took some medication. I was out all day. Honestly, I hate to say it, bro. I hate opiates. I hate pain medication. This stuff is evil. And if I didn't have to take it because of my condition, I would not whatsoever. I'm actually, as soon as I'm good to go, I'm going to flush all this stuff down the toilet. Like I hate these drugs. Don't start taking this stuff unless it's absolutely necessary. You're in extreme amount of pain. This stuff is, I know it's going to be hella addictive. I know that it's not like the first few days not taking it is going to be a struggle. Inshallah, I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants me the strength to resist finding other alternative routes of getting this stuff because, dude, like this is pretty bad, man. Like I was knocked out all day. I woke up a couple of times. I couldn't leave the bed for anything but to leave get some water and use the bathroom. I haven't eaten or anything, and this stuff is extremely strong. And I see how it gets to grapple people. So my sympathy goes out to anybody that's suffering from addiction as a result of their exposure to this stuff. The Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us a strength to resist the temptations of drugs and alcohol. With that being said, let me go to the heart of the topic. I was watching, YouTube now does a lot of shorts. Like people are able to do something on TikTok and I guess share it on YouTube. And some of this stuff is really moving. And I notice when certain topics get brought up, it seems people go out of their way, in particular of Muslim spaces, right? They love going to Dawa Muslim spaces to spread their BS and then try to challenge Muslims to be like, why do you guys do this? You guys treat your woman like crap. Why did you guys do this? Why do you guys believe that? Right? It's always like, honestly, real talk, bro, I only see that in Muslim spaces, dude. I was a hardcore atheist, bro. I followed Sam Harris. I followed Christopher Hitchens. I followed the new atheist movement. I followed actually some of the people that would be considered also in the alt-right. I was Milo Yiannopoulos. I followed him really heavy when he first came out. I followed a lot of the people with involved with the Quilliam Foundation. I followed also people that were maybe more on the conservative side, like George Solwell, who's a black man. He's a black conservative. He's one of the leading black conservatives. And so I followed a diverse amount of spaces. The only spaces I probably didn't really get into is because I don't identify with this movement whatsoever. I never have. Is the LGBT movement. I never really followed any of their spaces or any of their scholars. I'm aware of the movement, and because there's a lot of cross-pollination between, honestly, believe it or not, the alt-right, the LGBT movement, and liberal movements on one particular issue. One of them that they kind of unite over is they all hate religion, right? As much as they claim Western values, the Western values a lot of the times that they do, even though at one period of time, Western values equaled the power of Christianity, whether it be the Protestant movement, the Greek Orthodox Church, the Coptic Church, or the Roman Catholic Church. At the Age of Enlightenment, there were a lot of shadow movements in academia, right, of people that were straight. There was the theist movement, right, which Voltaire and those people, they were theist or deitist. No, I think they're more theist. So they believed that there was a supreme being, but necessarily the God of the Bible and all the books of Abraham and stuff like that, or previous religious movements wasn't valid, right? And that's a lot of the people that were the Illuminati, right? They were into those movements, right? They said, oh, we don't worship the devil. People that use it as a cop-out, we worship this quote-unquote supreme being and stuff like that, regardless of the rituals, what you'll believe about the Mason movement, things like that, the Illuminati. They were tied to that, right? So moving on. Then they straight up became, when the communist movement came in straight up, the communists were really inspired by people of the Age of Enlightenment, even though they considered a lot of them bourgeois, with that ideology. And then when the communist movement and the feminist movement started, there's cross-pollination on the issue of they believed that religion kept society from progressing, that it was the main institute of quote-unquote progression being stifled, right? When it came to women's rights, so-called LGBT rights and stuff like that, things of that nature. And for the most part, I mean, some of their points were valid in the sense that I don't justify my beliefs in one sense being overtly used to just destroy somebody solely because of their identity, right? I don't think that's good, right? But however, what I notice with these movements is you give them an inch, they take a mile, right? They say, oh, don't discriminate against them. So it's like, okay, hey, I don't want you guys to be fucking, sorry, pardon my French. I don't want you guys to be tortured, mutilated, killed on the street, simply for existing, right? Let's just give them the right to publicly show their affections if they want to, right? Even though in Islam, even straight people are not supposed to show their affections. Like, we're not supposed to be dry humping each other out in the middle of the freaking street with bikinis and stuff like that. And dildos on our noses and stupid stuff like that. Like, straight people aren't supposed to do that. So we don't even have the right in Islam to do that, right? But you want to be able to go to Muslim civilizations and countries to spread that as being sexual liberations, right? Sex should be just everywhere. People should be able to have sex in the street. Right? It's freaking crazy. Like, just notice how crazy the concept that is. People should have the right to just have sex in the middle of the street, in the middle of children, because you're keeping them down. I can't just have sex in my bedroom. I can't just have sex in my private spaces. I can't just have sex in my sex clubs. I can't just have sex in the bathroom. No, I want to have sex in public. But God forbid if a straight man goes and walks around butt naked in front of children. Oh, he's a predator. Oh, God. Oh, or he wants to groom young girls if he overtly is sexually affront to those people. Sexual harassment. But you're not sexually harassing me by walking around butt naked, covered in glitter, walking down my neighborhood and trying to have your parade go down my neighborhood. That's not sexual harassment. Why do I need to validate your existence like that? You know what I'm saying? It's freaking crazy. This is what I call the Looney Tune movement. It's where things are like, they think they're progressive, but they're actually ass backwards, right? So, Wallahi, I'm trying to have a consistent train of thought with this. So, I'm sorry, I'm really emotional right now. So, this brother talked about a hadith, right? And I'm going to try to find this hadith because there's a whole anti-hadith movement. When somebody has a hadith that supports something that you don't believe in, right? This is why I know it's about the so-called Muslim community, right? The Ummah. Whenever there's a hadith that calls out your behavior, that calls out things that are problematic that you do, that you spread as being, quote, Islamically, or you as a Muslim, you support this movement. Hey, I'm going to be honest. So-called Muslims, especially so-called Boer Muslims, they need to check themselves. They need to check themselves. I don't want you, whenever you're discriminated, you're a so-called Muslim. But everything you do in your life is anti-Islamic. You don't follow any of the rules of Islamic or of the Sharia. You engage in sins as many times as you can all the time. You engage in backbiting all the time. You spread gossip. You spread rumors. You actively do things that are against the teachings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all the different prophets of the book. And even the laws that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed to mankind. You do everything in your entire life to do that. And I don't care, dude, I wish I had the strength to not want to suffer socialized isolation, because I've already suffered it a lot in my life, and it hurts each time I get it. But the worst socialized isolation you get is when you do something that's in your heart belief. Not that, oh, I so-called made mistakes and I hurt people and things like that. Like, no, like, bro, and this is my teaching to you, have the strength to stand up for your beliefs, man. Because the people, the so-called people that are SJWs, they do everything in their power, right, to dismantle everything you believe. As soon as you say what you believe, you're problematic, you're a bad person, you're evil, this and that, the third. These are tactics that I believe that the shaitan is using, and they say, oh, you're crazy, that this is not satanic, and this and that. Dude, they're openly using satanic imagery, support for satanic ideology, the actual Satanist movement, Luciferianism. I've been Antoine LaVey, Aleister Crowley. They actually were inspired by the movements of these people. And one of the main things that these people are trying to do is that religion stops your happiness, and it stops your sexual expression and your sexual freedom, right? And they gradually manipulate you to compromise constantly your religious beliefs to do that. And so-called people raised in even Islamic countries or going to academia, they're influenced by the internet and by the Western culture, Western thought. And said person, and this is not a shout out there to the sister, bro, but I had I really restrained myself from really going at the sister's neck, bro. Because real talk, I would have destroyed this girl. So-called Boer Muslims, they're really intimidated by reverts that actually study the deen, and they're trying to understand it from an authentic perspective, not from a cultural perspective, because so-called Pakistani culture is not Islamic. Saudi Arabian culture is not Islamic. Indian culture is not Islamic. Bangladeshi culture is not Islamic. Somali culture is not so-called Islamic. Culture, a true Islamic culture, comes from the understanding from the Quran and the Sunnah, which means whether the study of Hadith and the study of the Quran itself. Everything else is man-made stuff that we use to create a cultural identity, maybe somewhat based around the Quran and Sunnah, but these people had cultures that predated that stuff that they still latched onto. So-called even Christian culture. Okay, so-called Christian culture is not even going to the West, right? They said we're Christian civilizations, right? A lot of the so-called things that America, England, the UK, France, all these countries, Germany, Poland, all these so-called Christian countries, the culture that they have is not Christian whatsoever. In fact, I think it's like, man, there's a movement. What would Jesus do? If their version of Jesus Christ, right, was walking the earth right now, you think he would tolerate anything that he sees out right now? They love to do the whole lovey-dovey hippie version of Jesus Christ, but at the same time, he came to call out the corruption of the religious establishment at the time. And one of the biggest things was allowing things that were of God and of the teachings of God and the prophets to be supplemented, for corruption to be allowed, for actual oppression, because they were oppressed by the Romans and stuff like that, for their compromising of their religious values to be compromised by the pagans and stuff like that. The Romans were constantly trying to instill as much as they could to monotheistic. I'm trying to think of the word, but they were trying to destroy the religious values of the Jews, but every single time they did, a lot of the Jews rose up. So they gradually were doing it subtly as much as possible to influence them, right? And, to the point where they were actually trying to, they destroyed the temple. And then, they also did things, for instance, to culturally get them away from eating kosher, things that and the third, right? To get them to Romanize, shave their beards, look more Roman, send their kids to Roman education like they were elite. And we already know what that happens because, honestly, with colonialism, that's what happened too. So-called Muslim leaders, a lot of the anti-colonial movements, unfortunately, a lot of those people were also influenced by the West. These kids were the bourgeois class of their said countries, and they got their education in the capitals of their colonial empires. A lot of people, like say Lebanon, stuff like that, they went to France for education. India, when it was India, Pakistan, Bangladesh were one country or one Raj. They were sent to the London for school and education. African countries, the various African countries, they were sent to the colonial capitals of their empires for education as well. Or the professors of those universities were also educated in the colonial universities. So, of course, they exchanged their ideas to their home countries, right? We're seeing that now. Of course, people all over the world are sending their kids to Western countries for education. And of course, look at what's in the Western countries right now. And those same Western countries are literally funding in their legislation in their home countries, movements in these same countries to expound their Western values, right? The last stimulus check, the quote $1 billion or whatever like that stimulus check, if you look at the fine print, dude, Google it, bro. I'm not some conspiracy theorist, bro. Google it. They'll straight up admit the invoice of where all that money was going. That wasn't most of that money didn't even go to Americans. A lot of that money went over to foreign countries for quote unquote aid. And a lot of that aid was to support programs that supported Western movements. It's crazy, bro. When I saw that broke my heart. Because a lot of the time when we listen to the other side, right? They're like, oh, you guys are conspiracy theorists. You guys think we're trying to do this and do that. But you listen to the radical side, they're like, yes, we're trying to dismantle your religion. Yes, we're trying to dismantle this, that, and that. Now, you like to think that the radical side, their voice is the minority. But sometimes the minority voice has the most power because what they do is the moderates, they cower because they're cowards, right? A lot of human beings are cowards and they cower under the threats of others. So the moderates, they bend their knee to the radical side, and they say, "Oh, you know what? We're gonna get you to back us, right? We're gonna trickle in some of your information and some of your demands." So under the carpet, they use the news media and the news media apparatus to gradually use propaganda to kind of convince people of the radical stuff. What's up, Nicer? Bear with me now. I just started a little bit, so I might end this pretty soon. I'm really nasally and I'm really medicated right now. Thank you so much for your support. You're always welcome here. So, I'm going to get to the actual post now that I have somebody in here. So a Muslim brother was like, hey, the Dajjal is going to, there's a hadith about the Dajjal, using women to manipulate people, especially the Ummah, the Muslim community, all religious communities, to sacrifice their religious values. And you know what? I never really thought about it, but I'm going to say this hard. And, this can be misogynist, sexist, whatever. Every single movement that has been to destroy the foundation of the traditional family, I just say it has always been women. The feminist movement, LGBT, all that stuff has really been, women were the forefront of these movements, right? Because, if you look at the whole judge it out movement, that's a feminine argument. That argument started with girls basically being admonished by their fathers, their parents, their mothers for activities, engaging behaviors that were frowned upon, right? And first, one of the things they used for was using verses from the Bible and Christian thought, right? Because the West was heavily Christian at the time. So let's say, oh, hey, Jesus didn't judge anybody. Actually, he did all the time, right? He called out things that he said he came to not rebel against his father. He came to bring the teachings of what his father was. If you believe he is the Son of God, right? This is the Christian argument, that he came to reinvent and reinvigorize the church, start a movement that was more closer to the teachings of the previous things. There's like actually a line in the Bible or verse where he says, "Hey, I did not come to circumvent my father's teachings, but to basically, forgive me, basically to reinvigorate them." You know what I mean? Like he's like, I didn't come to change the laws. I didn't come to change anything. I came here to basically show empathy and compassion, but at the same time, like everything I teach is exactly the same teachings as all the other prophets. So Christians, they do mental gymnastics to support these movements by latching onto that, right? Because it's all, don't hurt anybody's feelings. We want to love everybody, right? You can love everybody, but you don't have to love the things they do. I don't have to love the things you do. I love family members, for instance. My little brother, for instance, in particular, my father. I love them for who they are, for what they are, Us growing up together, I have a connection with these people. I'll never be broken, right? They're family. They're literally family. I know these people since the beginning of my existence, right? At the same time, there are a lot of things that they do that have, hurt me or hurt other people and things like that. These are not so-called things that I agree with. And I would never pat them on the back and support them or applaud them for the things that they did. I would criticize and I call them out on the things that they do. That's a real person. That's a real man, a real woman, whatever you like to say. That's somebody that has backbone. And the world is raising a generation of cowards. Right? So I noticed in comment sections when people talk about stuff like this, that is really controversial, especially with the end times and things like that, the destruction of the family. You always have people, judge not, blah, 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 you're being misogynist. And he even called that out in the beginning of this video. It's because there's going to become a time where telling the truth is going to offend people. That's always been a constant thing throughout human existence. You know what I mean? You can't trick me, dude. I see it's like the emperor of the new clothes. I remember learning that story as a kid, and it profoundly helped me. The emperor, he wants to do clothes, and there's two people, right, that manipulate the emperor to basically say, we're going to create a garment that's so beautiful that nobody's going to be able to see it. And freaking the emperor's walking butt naked throughout the whole city. And everybody's like, oh, well, it's the emperor. Oh, he's butt naked. But those what those two guys obviously know what they were doing. It's so beautiful, we can't see it. It's invisible. And there's a kid that's like, hey, the emperor's naked. Because the one thing you notice about children, right, even though they're easily manipulated, when they see something that's weird, even they know it's weird. Like freaking unicorns and stuff, that's something cool that you see on the TV. But if a kid saw unicorns running through the street, they'd be like, that's a freaking unicorn. What the heck is a unicorn going down the street for? Those things, I've never seen those in real life. I've only seen them in cartoons and movies. Well, what the heck is a unicorn doing right there? Right? And this is a powerful story, right? Because everybody lost their minds. Like, oh, don't say that. They try to shut the kid up. Oh, don't say that. You're going to piss off the emperor, right? Because you piss off the emperor. I mean, dude, back in the day, that was like a death sentence, right? And he was like, no, the emperor's naked. And gradually, some of the people, the emperor would look down himself. We hear what the kid's like, yeah, I look like a freaking idiot. I'm freaking naked. This kid's right. And everybody, when the emperor agreed with, they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, yeah. How could anybody trick the emperor like that? Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, these guys are awful people. And society gets you to trick that is so easily manipulated. People are so easily manipulated to follow movements that trick you into thinking that manipulate your sense of reality, right? Like you see something that's weird, you see something that's wrong, or see something that's even disgusting, right? But you're forced to shut up about it because, hey, you're going to offend the people of the powers that be. Like the powers that be, they're so corrupt. They sacrificed their values a long time ago. The almighty dollar, right? There is a point that the almighty dollar, right? The almighty dollar has corrupted human beings to where people will sacrifice their so-called values in order to propagate these movements. That's why you ever notice that, like, sometimes poor people get a lot of crap, but I think poor people are the most moral people in the world. Because Especially we always looked at peasants. Like a lot of peasants knew that they were always going to be poor. Their sons were going to be poor. Their daughters were going to be poor. They might have a better life than they did, but they're probably always going to be poor, right? But you ever notice about something about poor people? Poor people were honestly some of the most moral people always. Granted, you know, sometimes the church exploited them and this and that, third, but they had the tightest families, bro. Rich people always had the most individualistic based societies, and they always classes and stuff, and they were the main propagators of all these liberal movements. It's crazy when you actually think about it, right? And they think they're giving power to the poor. What they're really only giving is government dependence. The powers that be, the billionaires, they're always going to exist, right? And they're going to fund politicians, and they're going to create an elite class that give the politicians to back what they want to do. They're always going to be rich. They're always going to get richer or stay rich, right? So they want to close the good boys club as much as possible. They don't want an actual revolution to actually happen. They look at the French Revolution and all the revolutions that happened, the communist revolutions where rich people were massacred. You know, it's in history books, right? The rich people of these countries were massacred. If they didn't jump on the boat, they were massacred, right? So what they do is they use propaganda manipulation through materialism, culture, music, entertainment, and stuff like that. Because poor people, for the most part, love being entertained, right? Because it takes them away from the pain of their existence. So it's no wonder that musicians, entertainers, or actors are the main forefront of these movements too, because poor people, because their existence is suffering so much, they're not finding shelter in religion anymore, right? Religion and the church was the foundation of poor people having a sense of hope. They don't have that hope anymore through those organizations because through corruption. I'll be very honest. Most religious institutions have been rife for corruption for a very long period of time. So lost faith in them, right? And that has been exposed over time. So they want something else to circumvent that. So they find entertainment, music, culture, pornography, right? That is a release for the pain of existence. And that gives them hope. Because if I could be happy from getting more of this entertainment, that's heaven on earth. And then granted, oh, hey, I can get a job. I can get a job that pays decently enough to really get comfortable. You know, okay, I get the government to give me paychecks just for living. It gives me some job security and this and that, the third. And I don't have to worry or want for anything. Once that's done, it's a wrap, bro. It is a wrap. So this is going to be follow notes. This is going to be into what that brother was talking about. He was being this hadith. They're going to be like, okay, yeah, they're going to get the woman to support everything. And there was a lot of people jumping in the comment section, of course, in their feelings. And unfortunately, a lot of them are so-called Muslim women. Right? Because they were making one thing women have a power of. Women love this. This is the ultimate power because women are powerless, bro. One power that women do have is manipulation. They learned it through their mothers. They learned it as a child. Women learn manipulation very, very early. So they do when men do something bad, right? We're held accountable. We get spanked. We get cussed out. This, that, and the third. When women get nicer. Yeah. Thank you. No problem. You take care. When women do something, they do a pouty face, they act real cute, and especially they're able to manipulate their fathers more than anything, right? Because there's daddy's little girl, right? The innocent daddy's little girl. So they manipulate dad to support the things that they want to do to get away with or minimize the punishments that they're going to get. And they learned that throughout society, right? Oh, poor little me. I didn't know that I was going to hurt your feelings by doing what I did. Oh, I'm so sorry. And they do the crocodile tears, and everybody feels sorry for them. Men, we don't get the same treatment. We never did, never will. Right? Feminine men, they do. James Charles, Lil Nas X. I'm not even going to go into that. But yeah, as a closing note, it's really disappointing to see so-called Muslim women support these movements. These people I think are more evil than the people that straight up say they're atheists, they don't support Islam, like, because they're manipulative. And I will challenge any of those people that come on this channel, because I'm somebody that's raised in the West. I'm somebody that's well schooled in Western philosophy as not as like formally educated and stuff like that. I'm not a philosophy major, this, that, and the third. Even with Hamami Ajab, he's not somebody who subscribes to any of these rules, but the guy's Western educated and stuff like that. So if anybody, his life goal and his life's job has been dismantling that stuff. So we can go to his channel, but Dave, you want more textbook examples? But hey, I challenge you, these people, to come on this channel. And when the first person, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I struggle with living Islamically every single day. And that's why you're called a practicing Muslim. And I think some people, they just give up, right? I now realize my desires never are going to align with, the Sharia. And I sin all the time. And you know what? I'm just not so-called. I just realized I'm not religious, right? Especially a lot of people are like, oh, that doesn't make sense to me. I think that's a problematic teaching. I don't agree with that. And that's so-called Islamic. You know what? I'm more of a quote-unquote spiritual Muslim. I'm not religious. And that's been able to be an excuse to co-opt the teachings of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam for a very long time. So keep, this is going to be a quick one. I'm sorry I went a little deep in that. Maybe I bounced around from examples, but I think I was pretty consistent on the topic. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe. Please reply. By all means, I love you guys, man. Always think of the less fortunate list. Ramadan, be a blessed one, inshallah. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.